How would you describe a friend? We have lots of participation this morning, all right? How would you describe a friend? Deborah? Loyal. Someone who's loyal, okay? Truthful, all right? Someone else, how would you describe a friend? Walter? Supportive, all right? Good stuff. Give me a definition.
Trustworthy. You can trust them with everything.
Someone you could trust with everything. Okay, there's a whole definition, not just one word. Good stuff. Give me a whole definition if you can. How would you describe a friend? Wayne?
Someone's there the good and the bad times.
Someone's there the good and the bad times. Okay.
Someone who shares wise counsel.
Someone who shares wise counsel. Okay. Some good answers here. Martha? Someone who can tell you the truth even when it hurts. Even when it hurts who? The person you're telling? How about the person doing the telling? It might do that too. All right. Someone else. Any other thoughts? Louise? Somebody who enjoys their company. All right. Okay. There was a British publication that had a contest, and they had people submit, their definition of what a friend was. And I'm going to read some of the submissions here. There was thousands of people that put in some answers, because I guess there was some kind of monetary gift that they were going to get if they won. But at any rate, first one was, one who multiplies joys, divides grief, and whose honesty is invaluable. Another one was, one who understands our silence. A volume of sympathy bound in cloth. I'm not quite sure how that one goes, but at any rate. Someone else here, a watch that beats true for all time and never runs down. And the winning definition, Brother Wayne would have probably got close to the winning definition, because it is, a friend is one who comes in when the whole world has gone out. It's kind of a redefinition of what Brother Wayne said, all right? But what is your favorite verse in the Bible to do with friendship? No wrong answers here. Deborah? There's a friend that sticketh closer than a brother, okay? That's talking about a specific friend, by the way. But someone else. What's your favorite verse in the Bible regarding friendship? Alicia?
The one that Jesus says, he'll never leave us. He's always with us.
Okay, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. Okay? That's a good one. That's a promise. Okay? Louise?
A man who has friends must show himself friendly.
A man who has friends must show himself friendly. Very good. We're going to look at that verse in a little bit, actually. Ian, did you have your hand up? No? Okay. I'm surprised. Shocked. I'm shocked, all right? What is the difference between a friend and an acquaintance? What's the difference between a friend and an acquaintance? Ian?
A friend is someone you actually know. An acquaintance would be someone that got on social media. Everyone calls her a friend.
Possibly. These people that have 943 friends on their Facebook account.
They probably don't have one in real life.
Well, they might have some. Let's not talk them too far down there. Deborah, you had to.
A friend is someone you let deeper into your life. An acquaintance is someone you can have fun with, but you don't really share every aspect of your life.
That's a good definition. Someone that you let deeper into your life. I like that. That's good. Anybody else? Definition of what's the difference between a friend and an acquaintance? Shirley Ann. Okay. Deeper connection. Ian?
Friend you choose to be with an acquaintance is basically what we're talking about.
I'm just kind of wondering, you're one of these guys with no friends or what? He sounds kind of bitter, doesn't he? All right. Wayne?
A friend is one that has stood the test of time.
Stood the test of time. All right. So friends are only old people. Okay. All right. How many of you have a friend that was passed down to you by your parents? Did anybody have a friend that was passed down to you by your parents? Take your Bibles and come with me, if you will, to Proverbs chapter 27. Actually, several of the verses we're going to look at today are from Proverbs chapter 27. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 27 in verse number 10. It says, "Thine own friend and thy father's friend forsake not, neither go into thy brother's house in the day of thy calamity, for better is a neighbor that is near than a brother far off." But it says, "Thine own friend and thy father's friend forsake not." So has anybody got any friends that they were passed down by their parents? If you follow what I'm saying here now. Martha has? There you go. There you go. Perfect example. All right. So it tells you right in here, you're not allowed to forsake us. All right. Beautiful. Thanks for pointing that out. Okay. Anybody else? Friends? From parents? All right. What would you say are the qualities of a good friend? You have already mentioned some of them. All right. But what would you say is a quality of a good friend? I guess we've kind of nailed a lot of them already, but let's take your Bibles. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 17 and verse 70. Keep your finger in 27 because we're going to come back there a million times, all right? But in Proverbs 17:17 it says, "A friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity." Notice how there is so much that God tells us in His Word about what our heart ought to be, okay? And in loving, all right? What does He talk about? What is a straight command from Jesus when He talks about how people are going to know if you are disciples, if you belong to Christ? What's Jesus say? Yes, if by this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if ye what? Have love one for another. Okay? You know, it's friendship is from the heart. It's not from the head. If it's from the head, it's an acquaintance. All right? If it's from the heart, that's where a friend is. Take a look in Proverbs chapter 28 and verse number 23. You're going to see a little bit of something that, again, that was mentioned. I think it was Shirley Ann that mentioned this. All right? Oh, it was Martha. It was Martha here. But it says, "He that rebuketh the man afterwards shall find more favor than he that flattereth with the tongue." Okay? "He that rebuketh the man afterwards shall find more favor than he that flattereth with the tongue." What's flattery? What is flattery? Ian?
False praise to garner some kind of profit.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? What's flattery? Shirley Ann? Vain compliments. That's good. Joe, did you have your hand up? Compliments. All right. Now, all compliments aren't necessarily wrong, but some of them are just there to almost self-serving. Okay? And, well, you did a good job. Well, you did a really good job too. You're fishing. Okay? or something along that lines. Okay? Look at Proverbs chapter 27, still along the same line. Proverbs chapter 27 and verse 9, it says, "Ointment and perfume rejoice the heart, so doth the sweetness of a man's friend by hearty counsel." Notice the difference between hearty counsel, and someone mentioned counseling over here as well, as opposed to flattery. There is a difference. There is a big difference between, now that you can give someone some counsel and encouraging them that way, or so you may be giving someone some counsel to try to steer them in where they're straying off the right line, all right? But it says, "Ointment of perfume rejoice the heart, so doth the sweetness of a man's friend by hearty counsel." Isn't that cool? The sweetness of a man's friend by hearty counsel. That's showing that there is care there, all right? That this isn't just something from our head. There's something that is sweet there when someone is giving that hearty counsel, all right? And as Martha said there, it may even hurt. May hurt both people. Did you ever have your parents tell you at one time, this is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you? Did you believe them? Did your mom ever say that to you when she's going to discipline you? She did. Who hurt more? The question is, all right? Okay. How many have profited, and you don't have to give details here, but how many of you have profited by the counsel from a friend? All right? Several hands. Okay? Proverbs chapter 27 and verse 6. I told you we're going to do Proverbs 27 many times. There's a lot of stuff about being a friend in Proverbs 27. But verse 6 says, faithful are the wounds of a friend. It almost doesn't make sense, does it? When you first look at it. The friend is going to wound you, but it's faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. There's a lot in there. There's a lot in there. It may hurt a friend to tell another friend, look, what you're doing here is wrong. Or look, where you're going here is wrong. Or this person, this other friend that you have, you shouldn't have this other friend. Or this job that you're going to go into, you shouldn't go into the other job. And it may hurt them to do that. But the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. Someone who does not care for you, okay? In Ephesians chapter 4, verse 15, it says, but speaking the truth in love may grow up into him in all things, which is the head, even Christ. It's important that we speak the truth in love. There was a man named Jan Paderewski. He was a Polish concert pianist, all right? And he went to play his first recital in London. I'm going to read this to you. He asked an influential compatriot to give him a letter of introduction to a leading figure in Britain's musical world who might be of assistance should anything go amiss. The letter was handed to him in a sealed envelope, and he hoped that everything would proceed smoothly and he would not have to use the letter. And everything did proceed smoothly. And he had a great time doing that. And several years later, he's going through his papers, and he found the letter in an envelope that was sealed. And he'd forgotten all about the letter, and he opened up the letter. And the letter said this: this will introduce Jan Paderewski, who plays the piano, for which he demonstrates no conspicuous talent. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but this was not a friend. This was just somebody else out there, all right? The difference. He never used it. Fortunately, he never used it. Or he may have on the boat back to Poland, all right? But at any rate, how do you gain a friend? How do you gain friends? Nobody knows. Nobody. Oh, Penny. By being a friend to them. All right? Any other thoughts? How do you gain friends? Brother Ian, you don't have any friends. How do you know this? Oh, you read about it.
You know what? I honestly believe a true friend can't happen right away. It needs time.
Okay.
Time. Because, I mean, how do you test loyalty without time?
Mm-hmm. Okay. But how do you get that? How do you start that ball rolling? How do you get a friend?
It usually starts with common ground, something you have in common with, or
Okay.
strike up a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize you like that person.
Okay. Sharon?
You have to arrange to spend time with them.
Time is so vital. All right. Shirley Ann, you had a flashed hand there?
I did, I think prayer is important.
Okay.
Praying for the right friend.
All right. Praying for the right friend. All right. Ian?
My mother used to tie a closet on my nose because it's odd to be my friend.
I believe that. Ian was so homely as a child, his mother used to sit him in a dark corner and feed him with a slingshot. All right? I have videos of that. No, I'm just kidding. All right, let's go to a verse that has been already mentioned by one of you tonight. And Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 24. Proverbs 18 verse 24. A man that hath friends must show himself friendly. And there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. Actually, two people mentioned this verse, because one mentioned the first half and one mentioned the other half. All right? And I promised you a couple weeks ago I wasn't going to do this very often, but I need to do this. As I was looking through reading through some of the commentaries that I have and so forth, and one of the comments, this one author that I was reading, he frequently, well, not frequently, but several times he will go and he will give you a verse from another version, all right, and just to explain his point. And he explained this point, and he put the wording of this other version in there, and I'm looking at it and thinking, I have never seen that before. So I decided to look it up in my King James Bible, all right? But let's read this verse together out loud, okay? Proverbs 18:24. A man that hath friends must show himself friendly, and there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. One more time. A man that hath friends must show himself friendly, and there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. So the last phrase there, and there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother, all right? I'm going to read that phrase to you out of the NIV, all right? But there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. Sounds the same, right? Same thing. Change the word sticketh to sticks. It's the same thing, all right? I'm not going to argue over that. That's perfectly fine, all right? But I want you to read for me the first part. Say the first part out loud to me again one more time. You ready? A man that hath friends must show himself friendly. You got it memorized? A man that hath friends must show himself friendly. Now I'm going to read it to you out of the NIV. All right? Say it one more time. A man? In the NIV it says, a man of many companions may come to ruin. It's the same thing, right? It's not even remotely close. I don't know what they're talking about, okay? A man that hath friends must show himself friendly. A man of many companions may come to ruin. All right? So now I'm going to read it, the comment that came out of another commentary that I like this guy. His name is John Phillips. And he states this. He said, we may as well let the verse stand as it is in the King James Version, because it is certainly true that those who desire to have friends must show themselves to be friendly. He's pretty accurate. Okay. But like I say, I'm not going to do that often, but when I read this verse, I'm thinking, those don't even, like, one is talking baseball, the other is talking ping pong. Like, I don't know. At any rate, just thought I'd throw that out there for free for you, okay? But if we're going to have friends, we're just going to follow this. We need to show ourselves friendly, okay? Reminded me of went to the hospital. Lenore had to have her scan done on Friday, and we get into the Hales Hamilton hospitals are huge, and we're in the Fontbonne building. Okay, I'm not even sure what Fontbonne means, but at any rate, it sounds like one of those chocolate things you dip in, right? But at any rate, we're in this building, and the girl that is, I'm pretty sure she's the one that put all these signs up all over. She looked like one of these people that was a little bit paranoid, and please talk in front of the glass was one of the signs, not off to the side, and then no, the waiting room is for patients only. So she kicked me out of there. When we got there, there's like 10 or 12 chairs in the waiting room. There's nobody there, but I couldn't stay in there with Lenore. When I went back an hour and a half later, there was still nobody there, but I wasn't allowed to stay there. But at any rate, so I had to walk a couple blocks around to the main lobby, and the main lobby in St. Joseph's Hospital it's 4 or 5 times the size of our auditorium here. Okay, it's huge. I don't know how many of you have been there before. There's all these soft chairs that are all over the place. So that's perfect. You know, I've got some good books on my phone that I can read. I'm actually reading one right now. You're going to benefit from. It's all about being a pastor. All right. So I'm reading this book. But while I'm sitting there, and there's a Tim Hortons. It's right there. You know. So I'm having a sandwich and a pop, and I had a donut. All right. And but at any rate, okay. Don't tell Lenore. And but so I'm sitting there. It must have been when I was eating the sandwich, and there is a fella on the other side. Now, I think that he was probably, I'm thinking that he was probably a little bit mentally handicapped. I'm not positive on that, okay? Or maybe I looked like somebody that he knew. I don't know, all right? But he was on the far side of this huge building, and he's big smile, and he's waving to me, all right? What do you think I did? Yeah, I smiled and I waved back to him. I had no idea who this guy was, but you know what? It was after I did that, I thought, I don't know that guy. He doesn't know me, but why did I wave to him? You know why? Because for a man to have friends, he must show himself friendly. And that guy showed himself friendly. He's waving away at me. How you doing? You know? It's Bible, all right? It works, all right? So, in order to have a friend, we must show ourselves friendly. But there's also some warnings in here about bad friends and how to get bad friends and why some people try to become friends with people for the wrong reason, okay? Now, if you're in Proverbs chapter 18 there, let's look at Proverbs chapter 14. Proverbs 14. Verse number 20, it says, the poor is hated even of his own neighbor, but the rich, what? Hath many friends. Why does the rich have many friends? Linda? The money. We're going to pass that on to somebody else. Look at chapter 19. These next 3 verses are in chapter 19. So flip over to 19, verse number 4. It says, wealth maketh many friends, but the poor is separated from his neighbor. Verse 6. Many will entreat the favor of the prince, and every man is a friend to him that giveth gifts. Verse 7, all the brethren of the poor do hate him. How much more do his friends go far from him? He pursueth them with words, yet they are wanting to him. What is this? What does this remind you of? Many will entreat the favor of a prince, and the wealth maketh many friends. What is it? Is there any other passage in the Bible that kind of reminds you of? Somebody made friends with somebody until this person had no money? Remember the prodigal son? He had all this money. He had all kinds of friends. But once all the money was gone, all the friends were gone. And I've heard of people in almost the exact same situation, not necessarily being a prodigal, but they won, $5 million in Lotto 649 or what have you. And most, I wouldn't say most, but a lot of people that win these huge sums of money, it's the worst thing that could have ever happened to them. They have no idea what to do with it, and they have all kinds of friends that they're giving them big screen TVs to and all the rest of it. And there's this one guy, and he won all this kind of money, and he was giving away things and throwing big parties and so forth, and it was all gone, and he had no friends. No friends. He ended up hanging himself in the garage somewhere because he had nothing left. Not only did he lose everything that he won, but he lost everything that he had before he won. It was all gone, all right? But those are the wrong kind of friends, all right? But let's take a look in your Bibles, if you will, Proverbs chapter 1. Proverbs chapter 1. Solomon gives some warnings to his sons because, let's face it, Solomon is the king, and he's more wealthy than anybody around, so you know what? His kids have got all kinds of stuff. So he's giving them some warnings of different friends. In there where we just saw about Proverbs chapter 19 about having money and getting friends for that. But he even starts off the book in verse number 10. He says, my son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. If they say, come with us, let us lay wait for blood. Let us look privily for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole as those who go down into the pit. We shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in thy lot among us. Let us all have one purse. Be our friend. Join up with us. Verse 15, my son, walk not thou in the way with them. Refrain thy foot from their path. Stay away from these guys, for their feet run to evil, and make haste to shed blood. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird, and they lay wait for their own blood. They lurk privily for their own lives. So are the ways of everyone that is greedy of gain, which taketh away the life of the owners thereof. If these guys are notably bad people, all right, with notably bad motives, stay away from these guys. Don't go anywhere near them. You know, there's another passage where he talks, he says, avoid it, pass not by it, turn from it and pass away. Stay away from that, okay? Stay away from these guys. In Proverbs chapter 14 and verse 7, he says, go from the presence of a foolish man when thou perceivest not in him the lips of knowledge, all right? If this guy is a fool, stay away from them, all right? If you make some kind of an affinity with them and you join up with them and make them your friend, they are going to pull you down. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to look for perfect people, because you're not going to find any then, okay? That's not what I'm talking about. But we're talking about people that are going against God, or they are foolish. What does God say? The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. Okay? Now that doesn't mean that we should not have anything to do with people that are against God. All right? We have to witness to them. We have to be what we need to be. And I'm going to show you some of that in a little bit in this last illustration that I have here. But you know what? They can't be our close. They can be an acquaintance, but not the friend. All right? If they're a close friend where we are sharing everything with, and they are sharing with us, and they are ungodly people, they are going to pull you away. All right? They will pull you away. You think, well, no, I'll pull them up. It doesn't work like that. It rarely works like that. Okay? They can be your acquaintance until you get them saved, and then then they can be your friend, and you can work along with them, okay? But up until that point, we need to be careful about who we have as those close people that we can share with, that we can ask for their advice. If they don't love God, all their advice is going to be tainted. All right? I am big on, if I know, if I've got a book that I know this guy is off the beaten path somewhere, I'm not going to agree with, I've got hundreds of books that I use to research and read and so forth, and I'm not going to agree with everything that everybody has to say. Okay? I got one that I agree with everything that's in. All right? The other 500 or so that I've got in my library, I'm not going to agree with everything they have to say. But if the person is, if I know that they're coming from the wrong spot to begin with, I have no problem throwing the book out. Because I know that there's going to be just too tainted in too many ways. All right? But it's so vitally important that we look for the friends that we have are ones that love God and put God first. All right? Or it's going to pull us down. In Proverbs chapter 29 and verse 27, it says, "An unjust man is an abomination to the just, and he that is upright in the way is abomination to the wicked." They don't mix. It's oil and water. Do you ever take a glass of water and pour some cooking oil in there just for fun? I used to, when I was a kid, I used to pretend I was a great scientist, and I had two things that I liked to put to just to show my great knowledge of chemistry. And I'd put a glass of water and pour in a little bit of cooking oil and shake it all up, it's really cool, and you set it there and you watch the two separate. That was my big thing, all right? My other big thing was baking soda and vinegar. Oh, that's really cool. Blows up, right? Yeah, that does. There you go. There's the end of my science class for you, folks. But the oil and water, it's the same thing as what it's talking about here. An unjust man is an abomination to the just. Not just drag them down, all right? It's an abomination to the just, and he that is upright in the way is an abomination to the wicked. Oil and water. Oil and water. Just want to share one last thing, okay? Let me ask this one question first, though. What is the most rewarding thing about being a friend? Not about having a friend, although I could ask that, but I'm going to ask it the other way around. What is the most rewarding thing about being a friend? Laura?
Watching them succeed.
I'm sorry?
Watching them succeed.
Okay, watching them succeed. All right. What do you find rewarding about being a friend, Wayne?
In most areas you agree.
Okay. You don't have to agree in every area, but most areas you agree. All right? Okay. Other thoughts? Linda?
Just being there for them when they need something. Just be there for them when they need your help or something.
Yeah? Okay. Good. Good answers. Deborah, you had your hand up?
Knowing that you help them, knowing that you knew them enough to know what to do to help them.
Okay. Yeah? All right. Some good answers. Shirley Ann?
Listen carefully. Knowing that they know that you're there for them.
Yeah. Knowing that they know that you're there for them. That is important. That is very important. I remember a long time ago, an individual had a health issue, and they called me, and that was just the same thing, knowing that they knew that I was there for them, and that meant the world. Just knowing that that someone trusted you enough. Anybody ever heard of Jesse Owens? Jesse Owens he won the long jump in the 1936 Olympic Games, all right? Brother Art was 42 back then, all right? But he won the long jump in 1936, and the year before that, he had jumped 26 feet, 8 1/4 inches, a record that stood for 25 years. As he walked up to the long jump pit, he saw this tall, blue-eyed, blonde German taking practice jumps in the 26-foot range. Owens felt a little nervous because this guy was jumping just about the length that he was, all right? I'm going to read this to you. He was acutely aware of the Nazis' desire, remember this is 1936, just before the Hitler's doing all the stuff, all right? Actually, Hitler was doing his stuff at this point. He was acutely aware of the Nazis' desire to prove the Aryan, how do you spell that word? Aryan supremacy, when they thought they were the, Aryan, that's it, I knew it, okay. Especially over people like Jesse Owens, who is a black man, all right? At this point, the tall German introduced himself as Lutz Long. He said, "You should be able to qualify with your eyes closed," he said to Owens, referring to his 2 jumps. For the next few moments, the black son of a sharecropper and the white model of Nazi manhood chatted. Then Long made a suggestion. Since the qualifying distance was only 23 feet 5.5 inches, why not make a mark several inches before the takeoff board and jump from there just to play it safe? He can jump 26 feet, and the qualifying is just 23 feet. He says, well, because if they step over the line, you're disqualified, right? So he made this suggestion, let's just jump from a couple inches back further. You qualify, no problem. You know, they don't do that then when you're trying to compete, but just to qualify. Owens did, and he qualified easily. In the finals, Owens set an Olympic record and earned the second of 4 golds. The first person to congratulate him was Lutz Long, in a full view of Adolf Hitler. Went up and shook his hand, all right? Owens never again saw Long, who was killed in World War II. He says, "You could melt all the medals and cups I have won, and they wouldn't be a plating on the 24-carat friendship I felt for Lutz Long." All right, that's what he said about him. Just, there was a bond, even though it was short time there, but it was putting somebody else ahead of them, all right? And friends can do that. And friends can help one another and be there for one another. But you know what? We need to have godly friends. We need to have godly friends. Not only do we need to have godly friends, but we need to be a godly friend. All right, let's pray. Precious Father, thank you for your word and for the instruction in it.